Is it working? No. Is it working now? Oh, geez. You guys. Okay, it's a perfect experience because we're talking about perfectionism. Hang on. And the camera's flipped, so I don't even know which way my. All right. So, hi, welcome. I'm Laura Volpintesta, and this is my first time live streaming from my computer, so clearly I'm all disoriented, and that's perfect because we're talking about perfectionism. And please pop in at any time. Why am I doing this topic and this live stream today? I have students in my model drawing program, and the first thing today we're doing introductions. I say, oh, what are your goals? What are your joys? What are your fears? What are your challenges? First comment in there, as usual, is perfectionism. Now, clearly, I teach a lot of fashion illustration, fashion drawing, things like that, which is very attracts perfectionists, right? But and this isn't just about art, guys, because you're gonna see it. I thought it was so beautiful that that came up today because my biggest joy in teaching, my biggest goal is to help people get past, to free themselves from this perfectionism. And often in studying art or dance or singing, things like that, we can unravel and dismantle perfectionism there, and then that spills over into all areas of your life, or it can, because once you have the experience of that release, it becomes metaphorical in so many areas. So give me 1 second. The perfectionist in me is so uncomfortable right now with this whole experience. Okay. And please comment, say hello. I can see your comments over here, although it's actually over there because the camera's flipped here on Facebook. I put down a few notes just in the past 10 minutes, but I wanted to talk to you just like I talk to a friend. So first thing we could say about perfectionism is, whoa, what does it mean to you? And maybe it doesn't even apply. Maybe some people like never go there, but some people live their whole life in this ocean of perfectionism. What does it mean? I mean, for one thing, it's a form of non forgiveness, total non forgiveness of self. And in drawing, this is the recipe for disaster because often, right, we want, and this is the same for in relationships, in music, in writing, in anything that's important to you that you want to do well because you love it, already sets you up for perfectionism. Oh, I got to do this right. Perfectionism it comes from a worldview that is so common in our society. The world of rock stars, the world of the class pet, teacher's pet, magazine covers. Um, it's external. It starts as external images of perfection and standards that we start to take on to define us, to define our value, and then they start to live inside us as our own voice against us. There are cliches like, oh, we're all perfectly imperfect, and we go, oh. But we're not that comfortable with that concept because we're unforgiving of ourselves. We're unforgiving of our rawness, our rough edges, our mess ups and our mistakes. But that's also like a metaphor for the whole ecosystem of the planet and everything. The raw, the organic, the natural, the humble, the vulnerable. These are all the aspects of the human that have been pushed into our collective shadow as a society. And the big healing, the big release is coming back from that. So I'm going to roll this back into drawing for a minute, but I want you to use this as a metaphor for anything in your life, your relationship, your job, family relationships, friendships, love, anything that you are dissatisfied with yourself in how you do it, what it looks like. So in the realm of drawing, because this is kind of targeted towards my new drawing students who said, I struggle with perfectionism. Of course you do. Because we grow up with, a sharp pencil and we want to draw something perfect. The only way I was able to finally start learning to draw, I was almost 20, and the drawing teacher took what I thought drawing was and turned it upside down. I thought it was about making the perfect line and making things look realistically perfect and everything nice. And thing is, we are looking at finished things without a process. We're the people who like take seeds out of fruit. We want seeds in our fruit. This teacher that I had, and you'll see in my most recent video that I did, changing the way you look at drawing, drawing without fear, is about drawing and then kind of like rubbing your hands all over the paper. For example, is the beginning of the end of perfectionism. And remember, this applies to your whole life, not just to your drawing. Big piece of paper, big messy piece of charcoal. It's kind of hard to control. And if you touch it, if you even breathe on it, the whole thing kind of smears. And then the teacher had us take both of our hands and rub it over the page. And suddenly now your paper is all kind of blackish. And in that moment, you have a softening. And I got goosebumps when I said that. A softening from a hard line to an atmosphere. Soft. It's already messy, so it cannot be careful. It cannot be perfect anymore. And suddenly perfection starts to look different. Perfection is more about beauty. It's about, oh, look at that unexpected shadow over here. It gives me a feeling. And you start softening into the reality of the experience and not the external expectation of perfection. How many times have you gone to hear music? Like, I know so many musicians, right? I play with great musicians. Beautiful music. The minute it's over or there's a break and you're talking with them, you're like, wow, people come up, oh, that was beautiful. And all you can hear the musician say is, oh my gosh, I messed up the third line. Oh, I forgot the lyric here. Oh, the timing was off. And everyone else was like, but that was so beautiful. So another aspect of our perfectionism is that we get this inner critic, this relentless inner critic. Now, there's a shadow and a light side to that. Your inner critic can bring out better in you, right? The inner critic comes with a willingness to push, like, go farther. In fact, it's even our inner critic, hopefully, that could lead us to release the inner critic. How can I grow? How can I achieve more? How can I get closer to a goal? But the shadow side of the inner critic is that it pounds you down and won't let you speak, won't let you start, and won't give you that opportunity to fall down and get up and fall down and get up along the way. It won't let you get lost, and it's in getting lost that you make your true discoveries. I love that quote I heard from Teal Swan. She says, you can't find yourself if you don't get lost. And when you take the charcoal and you make the mark on the page and you smear it out, you start to get a little bit lost. And in that moment that you're lost, I'm telling you, I felt it instantly. You feel found already. You start to feel surrounded by beauty and truth, a soft beauty. And that's the thing, we're living in a very harsh, rigid, hard world of right and wrong, black and white, all or nothing, on and off. The minute you smear over your lines on the paper, there is a softening. And to me, that softening represents the divine feminine energy or principle. And that doesn't mean female or male. It's just if we live in a dualistic world Everything has an opposite. We're going to assign something masculine trait, something a feminine trait, not gender specific, energetic. Softening is that like feminine principle, the line, the definition, the delineation, the paper, the container. It's your masculine. So in that softening, then we start to think of all the other principles that our society tends to devalue, not embrace, or should I say fear, because they seem weak. And now we're getting to it. Perfectionism is best eradicated not just by smearing your hand over the paper, but doing that in a safe place. Because perfectionism, the medicine is safety to me. It's about a place where you can be vulnerable. Ooh, our society doesn't like vulnerability. Our culture doesn't like softness. Doesn't like, I wrote down some of the words. Openness, being open can feel dangerous, feeling vulnerable, feeling up for question, right? We want to put out that perfect thing. I wish I was here today just looking, flawless and the words all perfect coming out of my mouth so that everyone can think I know everything. Because that's what we've come to praise. But authenticity and self-acceptance. Hi, Diana Island. Thanks for sharing. And please pipe into the conversation. I'll be looking at the comments. Are we ready to... Okay, so when we talk about vulnerability, what would be vulnerable about a drawing? What would be vulnerable about a drawing we don't like? Well, there's two layers, right? There's sharing it with the world, which makes us feel very vulnerable. And I really tie that into school and family, like that whole sense of like sorting people by age and having them compete with each other, and people are teasing each other and stuff. But then we don't just feel vulnerable in front of others. We feel vulnerable when we're drawing or creating. In the beginning, we actually have a vulnerability to ourselves, to our own ego walking in and saying, that's ugly. That's bad. I don't like that. But if we stop right there in our relationships, in our growth, in our education, we get the pain and we don't get the healing on the other side. So taking it back again, well, what does vulnerability mean at all? Vulnerability, not safety, right? So we want to take steps in a safe space. How do we create a safe space? In my art classes, dance classes, my whole thing is to really, really try to get like real with people, not to be too like authority like, because I want people to feel safe. We're all human and that we all have these abilities. Creating a space that is playful, like dismantling having to put up a facade or a mask, creating a space that is accepting, encouraging, warm, and kind of dismantling fear. And by playing up love, here's the thing, when love is cultivated, fear just falls away. I think that's because fear is a lie. We can get enough playfulness, enough connection, enough remembering who and what we really are and how connected we are, crumbles away. That's in a group atmosphere. But my job also in drawing classes is to get inside your head and help protect you from yourself. Because the first act of unkindness now is you with you, judging what you're doing. So vulnerability means being willing to draw something you don't like and be with that. And I think what makes us, what we are most unsafe around, what we are most vulnerable to, we don't even ask ourselves, why does this feel so bad? And the answer, I would say, what do you guys think? What are we vulnerable? What do we think we are vulnerable to? I think it's shame. shame. What are we ashamed of? What is there to be ashamed of? Okay, these are all good questions. I love to journal. Here's the other piece. What is shame? Okay, because shame is such a pervasive controller and fear-based shadow emotion that we don't even get to know it's happening when it happens. So if we can let ourselves feel shame, because really there's no shame in making a bad drawing at all, but we experience it already, like a shame of our lack of ability. We're ashamed that we don't have the tools yet, that we don't have yet, and they're so accessible. They're so accessible. You're going to get them, but you got to start. You can't answer your questions till you have them. You can't find yourself till you're lost. It's okay. This is true for relationships too, and all things. Being a parent, first time, you don't know what you're doing. Even the 10th time, you don't know what you're doing. It's, you feel vulnerable. You have shame. Now, what if you suddenly realize that it's okay to sit with shame? It's an emotion. It's a feeling. It's not the reality of you. It's not the truth of you. It's an emotion. And it's a lie about you. Thank God. Huh? Okay. So I just wanted to point that out, because when you stop running away from shame or embarrassment or vulnerability, and you actually realize you can just, it's like looking at the monster under the bed, just sitting with your shame for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and realizing it actually won't destroy you. Yeah, I did a drawing that I hate. Okay. So one of the things I do with drawing around shame is I know to this day, if I have a big white piece of paper and a perfect black pen, I'm going to have a lot of perfectionism come into my drawing. And I'm just reminding anyone here who doesn't care about drawing, it's a metaphor for anything in your life that you're perfectionist about. Once I purposely make a mess of the page at the beginning of the drawing, now we can get some real work done. It's already messy. It's not going to be perfect. It's going to be beautiful. It's going to be real. I'm going to make discoveries. I'm going to tell the truth. The truth is more beautiful than perfection. And I'm not just saying that to make people feel better. It's true. Have you ever been, I don't even know what it is. We're so used to, braces on the teeth and airbrushed skin. Did you ever see a real person where like one eye is like off center and the smile's a little crooked? And the most beautiful people you ever see, the teeth are overlapping and you're like, oh, this person is the most beautiful person I've ever seen. We crave rawness, raw, organic, true, real beauty. And again, that's where I call that like that divine feminine energy. Let me look at some of the notes I wrote here for a second. Okay, and when I teach fashion, this also calls into the body image. So fashion design, like big, crazy realm of, we learn to draw, we learn to draw unrealistic bodies in fashion school for what? Like, why would that make any sense when we're designing clothes for humans? Of course, Mirella, claro. Of course, I remember you. Body image. So when you're studying model drawing, it's such a tremendous opportunity to celebrate your body and collectively dismantle the judgments on the female form or any form of the body. And that's something we explore in the model drawing classes as well. There's like so many levels of self healing and loosening and softening happen within an art class. your perception changes. And when your perception changes about something, when you start to see things differently, literally visually see things differently, but then also through the experiences change how you see yourself differently, your whole world changes. There's that famous Wayne Dyer quote: when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at start to change. And in this concept of perfectionism, more questions we can ask ourselves is, who's judging? Is it external or is it internal? It's bothering me that every time I move my hand, it goes off screen. I think it's, yeah, because this is flip flopped. I need to. The perfectionist in me is having a really hard time here. It's perfect. Perfect metaphor for the topic. Who's judging? Is it the person in front of you? Is it the voice inside of you? And then the voice inside of you, when did you start judging yourself? Was it your mother telling you there was some that you're, I know so many, I live around so many musicians, music teachers, art teachers. Parents tend to think that their kid doesn't have the talent. And I think that's something that gets passed down generations. So when we express ourselves and we're judged for it, we tend to pass it, and we don't heal it, then we tend to pass that on down the generations to our kids. We just keep passing it on. And the beautiful thing is, it hurts. But if the hurt leads us to heal it, then we heal all the generations after us. And they say even the generations behind us. When you start to question these lies, perfectionism is an oppressor that's a liar. What would perfectionism offer you? What would being perfect, what do you think you being perfect would get you? The thing is, with perfectionism, you're usually trying to look like someone else. You're trying to be someone else, but you're already perfect as you are you. And I know all of that sounds like cliche. Yeah, people always say that. But when you put yourself in enough situations to settle into that truth, that's beautiful. And so I don't know if I got into yet we talked about shame. We talked about who's judging. You know, there's a voice in your head. That voice in your head can be reflected by someone who's in front of you telling you there's something wrong with you. And you'll say, you're mean. But we only project like that. See the one finger going out? There's three coming back. We only point outward when there's three pointing back. It doesn't hurt me that someone's judging my work if I don't have three fingers pointing at me inside me, judging my work, judging who I am at this time, my imperfection. The fact that I am a human on a journey, growing, tumbling, falling, getting up, continuing. So the judge inside is the one we can really work with, right? It's going to be very hard for me to control how everyone around me perceives me and responds to me. But I can definitely give attention to how I perceive myself, how I talk to myself, what my perfectionism, the pain of my perfectionism is here to teach me so I can grow and love myself more. And then if there's a light side to my perfectionism, it would be a standard I hold for myself. Beautiful, yay. But when I allow myself to soften into the mess of discovery, of adventure, of curiosity, of making a mess on the paper, and then sort of letting that mess inspire new form, not from an external standard, but from the inner calling. Because when you start making that mess on the paper, it starts healing itself from within. It moves towards harmony. It moves towards beauty because that is your, it moves towards love because that is your essence. That is your birthright. That is who you are and how you are as a human soul. And it's fine if you think I'm crazy because then the video is not for you. But this is powerful stuff for me. When I work with students, fashion design attracts more perfectionists than anything. It's almost like sometimes fashion becomes this thing, light and shadow aspect, this beautiful thing that we use to whip ourselves with, right? No, it's there to celebrate us, to adorn us, to uh, to celebrate our sacredness. But then we get into something like fashion and use it to say, oh, my body's wrong, my skills are wrong, my drawing's wrong. Well, no, something wrong. But when you first start drawing, when those thoughts come up, that's bad, that's ugly, I don't like it. What are people going to say? Worse yet, what am I going to say to myself? That's where we have to be willing to meet our shame. This could be like an inner child thing too. When did you feel? When were you shamed for your expression? When you were little? How far back can you remember being shamed for an expression? You sing ugly, or your ears are too big, or I have a million of those. But it matters. Are you willing? Is it okay now that you're adult? Can you just sit with that shame for a minute? Like, oh, I don't like that drawing. Guess what? You don't have to sit there and stare at the drawing you hate. Toss it. That's one of the really big things we do in my classes, other than smearing it up and creating a playful, flowing atmosphere of fun and discovery and safety. The other thing is to we do a lot of quick poses. So you have the models posing for like 5 seconds, 10 seconds, 15 seconds. All you can do is capture the essence. All you can do is respond to what you see and make a mark and then turn the page. You want to use really cheap paper for that. As you start to have that experience of letting go, letting go, letting go, letting go, not having to like work the drawing for hours, there's a freedom in that. And that's a metaphor for all layers of your life. Again, let me just keep saying that. I have some more notes here I want to peek at about perfectionism. It's forgiveness. And it's hard for me to use the word forgiveness now because I did so much work on the word that I don't know how you hear it when I say it. I first was introduced to it by Gabby Bernstein. She would call it the F word, and then she would teach about Course in Miracles. Forgiveness is when you release that past. You release, you release, you release. We hold on to things. I hold on to things. At least in a drawing class, I could draw and toss, draw and toss. If you draw and toss enough times, you're going to start to see, ooh, 5 of those were really good. 1 of those was really good. I can see my value. I can see my ability, and I can keep moving up from there. I don't need to sit and obsess about the mistakes. They're all part of nature. I'm looking at a tree right now. Some of the leaves are falling and they're dying, and some of them are growing. It's all part of life. Contrast. You prefer something, you don't prefer something else. Same thing with your feelings. You have a preferred feeling and a less preferred feeling. Is it safe to feel the good feeling? Because it seems to me that we think we are safer feeling bad because we hold on to those bad feelings like life buoys. What if we held on to our good feelings like life buoys? Wow, I did a really good drawing today. Or even my drawings all sucked, but sucked. My self judgment. But I tried something new and I used a new kind of a pencil and I felt different and I saw differently and I know I'm changing and I know I'm growing inside. I know it. I feel it. I feel alive. I'm taking some risks. And that's, at least in a drawing class, particularly, I create such a safe space, encouraging space. That's where the magic happens because when you're not free, you're not contracted and rigid and scared, right? You start to have a sense of humor, get back into your childlike state. And when I was talking about society's values, is the child is one of those things that society doesn't value too much. The gifts of what a child is. We actually think of a child as something less than an adult. Biggest mistake we ever made because a child is the whole keys to our understanding. They are our teachers as much as we are their teachers. Oh, there are timelines. There are not values. There are not. We are all equal. And just telling you where I'm coming from. This is how I live, and I forget all the time. And every time I'm in pain, life is reminding me who I am, who we are, that we are all each other. Okay, so for someone who's perfectionist in their drawing or in learning something new, let's get just a little, before we close this out, I have a student at 3, to get a little more, how does this help you? Getting vulnerable, getting soft, making a mess, being playful, accessing your play state, which again, those are all aspects of accessing your inner child, the child that knows what you like, knows who you are, knows what your preferences are, and doesn't doubt that. Is that being? That's your divine self. That's your spiritual truth. If you believe that that can guide every step of your business, every step of your drawing, every step of your marriage, your relationships, your health journey, your job search, let the child in. Because the child that we sort of abandoned at some point, because it wasn't perfect, because it was too vulnerable, you're old enough to stick up for that kid now. That kid's wise enough to stick up for you and tell you who you are, who you were, that you always knew. So wouldn't you know, perfectionism is the opposite of playfulness. And we tend to like poo poo playfulness. And guess what? As long as you poo poo playfulness, that's your reality. If you allow it, you allow playfulness into your life, into your experience. If you allow forgiveness, I started talking about forgiveness. I'm sorry. And then I just dropped. Forgiveness is every time, again and again, not holding on to the mistakes, mistakes of yourself, of others. But I find that it's yourself, your lack of self forgiveness is always going to manifest as people you can't forgive. And it doesn't mean that people hurt you because you had it wrong. You got hurt because you were. The point is, forgive yourself. Like, if you sat down right now and made a list of ways, situations, things that have happened that you haven't forgiven yourself for, you might just suddenly come up with a list of 70 things, and all along you didn't even know you hadn't forgiven yourself. We're so busy resenting situations and people that hurt us. It's completely in our shadow. We're blind to where we have not forgiven ourselves. And if you can't think of any, the best key to where you haven't forgiven yourself is find a situation where you didn't forgive someone else. Because you're probably blaming yourself for having allowed the situation, blaming yourself for not having stopped up, for not having known what to do. Guess what? If you knew what to do, you would have done it. Same with your drawings. Same with your marriage. Same with everything. Embrace it. Allow yourself to be loved, supported, guided by you, by your inner presence and the child, that pure child inside you. Again, every time I say child, it's like I already know that the whole all the people, all the culture around me is like, child. A child is a whole person with all kinds of faculties that we are trying to get back. Right? So let me go over. I have just a few notes. I didn't plan this because I really like to talk to you like I'm talking to a friend. And so please put a comment too. I'm just going to look over this page really quick. You know, the main reason I got to this was a student talking about perfectionism. And bottom line, it's a self-love journey. It's a self-love journey. Goosebump, goosebump, goosebump. Less perfectionist, less perfectionism, more love, more acceptance. The minute you've accepted something, it loses its hold over you. You may have to accept it over and over again. That's okay. Thank you. The thing that you are resisting, what you resist persists. The thing that you, ugh, I might make an ugly drawing, is going to rule your life. If you're afraid of making an ugly drawing, make a lot of them. Make a lot of them. Get rebellious. Make a lot of really, really, really ugly drawings. And then you're going to be like, shoot, they're not ugly enough. Like, you're going to make something beautiful. The minute you stopped trying to make a perfect drawing, you're going to make a beautiful drawing. I'm sorry, but that's the truth of it. And that's why I do a lot of high speed drawing sessions with my students. Because when there's no time to judge, guys, when you're looking back at what you did wrong, you're fantasizing because it's done. Good. See what you would have done differently. Take note. Yay. But if you think you can go back and do it again, it's a fantasy. So going forward, make the changes. Yay. But how can you continue to beat yourself for something? Forgiveness, forgiveness, forgiveness. Release, let it go. And you won't let it go till you do. And that's okay too. It's all good. We're all in this together. We all just keep reminding ourselves. So, questions I had written down here. Okay, I was talking about perfectionism versus like softening. Perfectionism versus vulnerability. How vulnerable are we really? What the heck's going to happen to us? Someone's going to laugh at us? Then we have that shame for 20 seconds, 20 minutes, 20 days. Shame. Then what? Oh, shame. I'm not resisting it anymore. Yippee, I was ashamed, and now it's like, next, I got stuff to do. I have too much love. I'm too busy to stop for shame. Perfectionism versus freedom. Freedom to have a big blemish on your drawing, on your marriage. Freedom to let things be organic, let them be raw, let them be bumpy and lumpy, and realize how beautiful that is. Where did the image of perfection? I feel like perfection is always something that was fed to us from the external. The antidote to perfectionism is spilling out from within and changing your eyes to allow yourself to see beauty where you didn't see it before. And believe me, you're going to keep evolving. You're going to get better at your singing or your dancing or your drawing or your writing or your business. It's inevitable. Your nature is to grow. If you judge yourself right in the beginning, all I can say is that's unkindness toward yourself. And I hate to say it, but I believe that so many of us learn very early on in life, I don't know if it's school, if it's church, if it's home, if it's generations, we actually learn that we think that doubting and judging ourselves is noble, is desirable, is makes us good. Now, if there's some truth in that, I mean, sure, question yourself. But there's a deep, dark shadow aspect to, to that part of you, too. So let it be light if it helps you be open to new perspectives. But if your self critique is decimating your joy in life, only you, only you can decide to make that change. And you're worth it. You deserve it. The guru is you. So, who's judging? Is it you or is it someone else? Remember, if it's you, it's me 3 times. Who do we want to please? Does my drawing have to end up on the cover of Vogue magazine and then it's okay? Who am I drawing for? Is it because I want the money and so I need more people to like it? Is it for being accepted or given permission by some external validation source? Why am I drawing? Is it for the imagination and the beauty and the love of my desire to create, to explore, to be curious, to touch, to feel, to taste? Why do you create? Why are you creating? All the questions we never even ask. And if we do, we don't even get to the answer. Like we always stop before the prize. That's why it's important to start believing that your life is full of prizes, that you deserve prizes, that your life loves you. I know you're challenged as you know what right now. Can you keep a relentless belief that you're loved by life itself? You're not being punished. You're being guided. You're being molded into one adventure, experience, learning, that there's going to be beauty there. And it's gonna be hard along the way too. It's all good, but not in incriminating yourself with perfectionism. Who are we really trying to please? Is it your second grade teacher in the back of your head? Your father who never approved of you? Or is it your boss right now because you're trying to get a raise? Or is it some fundamental belief that you're not worthy and you're not good enough and you're not worthwhile and you don't deserve stuff? Because that could be a belief you have in there and you didn't even know. And just in case you do, I'm here to tell you it's a lie. It's just a lie. It's just a belief. You know, people can believe anything. Don't believe in lies about you and who you are. I mean, you can. That's the beauty of it. You got free will. So you don't want to anymore. Okay? What does perfectionism get you? Make a list because I hope it's getting you something because you deserve all the good things. What do you think it will get you? And then realize what it's really getting you because it may just be sucking the joy out of your relationships, sucking the joy out of your artwork, sucking the joy out of your relationship with yourself because Perfectionism is really you like struggling with your own inner critic, who's, your fear voice. It's not your love voice. It's not your truth. Your truth is the one that wanted to express, the one that had a feeling. The unjudged one is your truth. The one that said, "Oh, I want to draw." The one that said, "I love fashion. I love art. I have something to say. I even I don't have something to say. I want to do it. I want to be it. I want to jump into that pool." Yet perfectionism is the rule maker that's blowing the whistle and saying, "No, don't go out past the buoys." And we just who are we tuning into? And then another journal prompt besides, what do you think it gets you? What's the what do you gain by being a perfectionist? You may make a list on the other side of the notebook. What do I lose? What does my perfectionism take away from me? And then, what's wrong with you? Okay, this is all the unconscious stuff, guys. What you resist persists. Make a list. Make a list. You might fill a whole journal with all the things you think are wrong with you. Get it out. Let it out. Look at it. Listen to it. Feel it. Soak into all that shame about what a terrible person you are. And then it's like going to dissipate because you aren't. It's not the truth of you. What's wrong with you? Write it all out. Write it all out. And then your inner voice, when all that gunk is cleared out, will be like, "What's right with you? What's right with you?" But best yet, what's wrong with you? Forgive yourself. You haven't forgiven yourself. Nobody else can do that for you. Forgive yourself. You can journal it. I forgive myself for I forgive myself for blank. I forgive myself for blank. I got this from Amanda Francis. This is a great one. I forgive myself for blaming myself for blank. I forgive myself for blaming myself for blank. No. I forgive myself for judging myself for blank. I forgive myself for judging myself for not knowing what to do. I forgive myself for judging myself for saying the wrong thing. I forgive myself for judging myself for not being able to control my emotions. I forgive myself for judging myself for not being able to save up enough money to buy my daughter. I forgive myself. You could go on all day, but do it. Because this stuff is all churning around, gunking up your brain. Listen to yourself. For me, I'm always like, why don't people listen to me? Why don't people care what I think? I don't mean here on the web. It's like in my relationships or in my job. Why my kids, my family? Why don't? Do I take the time to sit and listen to me? I want everyone else to listen to me. Do I sit and listen? Am I clear? Do I get clear? Do I express what I need to say? Even to myself? Oh, I forgive myself for not having done that. And the only moment is always now and now and now. We're creating now and now and now and now. I'll be perfectionist about it because that's who you're instantly judging it with the perfectionism. Let me look one more time. Shadows, rejection. I didn't even talk about rejection. Perfectionism, fear of rejection. You might want to start to explore what rejection would really look like and really feel like. Write it all out because these are all unexplored fantasies of deep shame, fear, and horror. The ones you could get. My oldest journals are the uglier ones because, like, dang, that stuff is there. But that stuff can come up all the time. Embrace it. Sit with it because it's there. Love and accept yourself. And then choose again. They say in Course in Miracles. You always get to choose. sometimes you feel like you can't because you're so caught up in an emotion. Just know at some point it's going to shift. You get to choose again. Whether you do or not, the choice of love, the choice of your truth never changes. This was the biggest discovery I ever had. It doesn't matter whether I like me in this moment. My likability, my divinity is non negotiable all the time. Every line I draw, every note I sing, every stupid thing I say, part of my divine expression. What I do with it, how I deal with it, what I forgive, how I grow, it's part of it too. I mean, that's why we're here. Why are we here? We're here to grow. We're here to learn. We're here to be humans. Forgiveness. You know, a lot of times this goes with decision making too. We can be very perfectionist about the decisions we make, choices. Guess what? If you knew, you had already made the decision. If you don't know or you make a wrong choice, it's the best you could do at that time. You know why you chose as you did, and you forgive yourself. I don't believe forgiveness means you let yourself off the hook and you're like, yeah, yeah, whatever, you're going to hurt people all over the place. Well, usually it's hurt people who hurt people. When you forgive yourself, you're hurting less. When you're hurting less, you hurt others less. So I'm going to wrap this up. It rambled like crazy. I don't like to start with an outline. I know that when I teach live, when I teach, when I'm with my friends, nothing's planned because I believe I am divinely connected. I believe what comes out at this point in my life, what's going to come out is what was supposed to come out. And that's how we're going to live. And maybe my next video is going to be so much better because I did this one. And your next drawing is going to be better because you did this one. And when you look back, you're going to see the progression and the growth. You can say, wow, what a delicious life. If I was just like born perfect and then it was just being perfect, boring. What should I think? So, and believe me, when in the art, when I make my art, it's like the more raw, the more real in it, the more perfect it is. In fact, with drawing, when students learn to be unapologetically, like grossly honest, I think it's a good word for this, is when their drawings become very accurate. You can't be accurate when you're trying to be perfect. You need to be honest to be precise and accurate. It doesn't come from a ruler, using a ruler. It comes from like unabashed honesty. Okay, I have to go teach now. I love you so much. Please, thanks for staying to the end. If you have questions about my model drawing and art class, let me know in the comments. I'll send you a link or DM me. But if you catch a replay, please put hashtag replay. I would love to know that you were here. And if you have thoughts, comments, or experience about anything we just talked about, please share here as well. And I think I'm going to be uploading this video into my model drawing class where my student was already talking about perfectionism, the worldwide disease. Bye, guys.